Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. We're on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm delighted that you have decided to join us. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff and Tam Cowan here with me on this Thursday. Hopefully you can give us your point of view on your favourite team, anything that's bugging you in football. We'll talk Scottish, English football, maybe look at the European scene as well. And of course, let's not forget, there's a Nations League draw coming up within the next hour. Scotland with a number of teams that we'll be looking at. I don't know why we're looking at all the teams, Ruffy, because we'll end up playing Israel again.
It's I mean, let's bring it on. You know, it's just an old firm game now.
That's exactly it. We should just do home and away constantly, or bring them into the league, Tom. We might as well extend the league and bring Israel in.
Exactly, it's guff. I mean, I've completely lost the place. The whole focus right now, they've got it all wrong, UEFA, FIFA. The whole focus now should just be in Scotland's playoff in March against Ukraine, and then hopefully the final rather than it's all a muddle now, you know.
Yeah.
It used to be so much easier.
But I'm trying to actually just maybe take us off on a wee tangent so that you don't become Mr. Glum, because when we were previewing there on Facebook, I just felt as if we were all about to go on a downer, because quite simply we are all talking about the impact of Omicron on football, not just Scotland, but you know, Manchester United Brighton has just been called off as well, so that's a blow. And over and above that, you're sitting saying to yourself, there are other games that are going to fall foul. Watford had COVID outbreaks, which got their match postponed last night. It's coming, it's affecting people. David Martindale, the Livingston boss, said, look, let's shut down, you know, the winter shutdown early to try and nip this in the bud. But I wonder if that's going to happen.
Well, it would maybe make sense, but again, I'd never really listen to guys like David Martindale or journalists or pundits with this. I'd prefer listening to the scientists and listening to the experts, But you know, it's just a horrible thought, Peter, going back to the idea of watching all the games on your phone or on your iPad again. You know, we didn't think we were going to go back to this. You know, that's the bottom line. We're almost looking back with almost an air of nostalgia, thinking, oh, do you remember doing that and how great it was when you went to the first game back, you saw your pals and all that. We're really hoping it's not going to end up like that again, but it's just brutal, and I think everybody just needs to keep positive. You say we're all getting the Jags. In fact, I'll tell you what, Peter, I've got my booster at 3:30 this Saturday, and I can assure you the choice was going, leaving the radio, going to Motherwell against St Johnstone, but the minute I was offered the chance to get my booster at 3:30 in Partick Borough Halls, where we've been there before with Mr Hugh Keevans, doing his wee charity night for the Grandwains, you know, there was a no-brainer. You know, I'm going to get my Jag. I'll miss the footman Saturday because I want to try and make sure that I'll be able to go and see more and more football later into next year.
Yeah, and can I point out, Tam, just for the basis of people who really give us a lot of jip on this whole thing, there are a number of people who obviously don't want us pontificating about second Jags, booster Jags, flu Jags, the lot. They have their own right to an opinion on vaccinations. That's perfectly fine. We talk about the vaccinations from the point of view, Ruffy, that if you don't have them, you're not getting into football. That's what we have consistently said. There are people who have beliefs in other areas. That's up to you. I don't care about that part of it. All I care about is if we're going to talk about football, if I'm going to get in as a journalist to report on football, I've got to have the Jags.
Yeah. Again, we're not making up the rules. The rules are made up for us, you know, to obviously let people know that this is a scenario where we are, you know, and you know now that if you don't have the passport, if you don't have this, if you don't have that, your Jag, whatever, then it's going to be very difficult for you. It's not us that are saying it, it's, as Tam said, it's the medical people.
Yeah.
And it's the medical people you've got to listen to, because they're the ones that are dealing with it, you know, at the core.
Yeah, absolutely. Had you stopped there? Sometimes you stop mid-sentence and I wonder where you're going.
No, I would add, if I'd rather have a shutdown than watch the football with no fans in it. I don't think I could go that again.
That was rubbish.
That was hard, wasn't it, Tom?
It was awful, and it did make us really enjoy it when we went back. But we'll just need. I actually think it's kind of. I think the next 36, 48 hours are going to be very interesting.
Yeah, well, Man United Brighton postponed, Leicester Spurs again.
12 or 14 down in England.
Yeah, but this is just in the last hour, you know, that's added to it all again. So clearly the clubs are feeling the strain of this, you know, how many more are added to it before maybe it takes another twist. I certainly wouldn't like to see the whole thing shut down. And let's not forget also, Ruffy, there's a small matter of the League Cup final on Sunday, and I think a lot of people have questioned whether it's a good idea for 50,000 to head there.
It'll be interesting to see how many of the 50,000 do go, you know, because a lot of them will have issues with it at all now that it's came to a head, and they might just say, well, it's a League Cup final, but my health comes before that, and I'm not going to go into an environment where there's 50,000 people there. So it'll be interesting to see how many people actually do go to that game.
Yeah.
The other thing we should remember as well, though, it is going to be outdoors, of course. It's at Hampden Park in Glasgow. That is a big difference.
Well, so was Liverpool Madrid. Do you remember that, Tom?
Yeah. That's a good shout. Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, I don't think... again, we're almost scaremongering here.
Yeah.
We're talking about the cup final. I don't know what the official line is on it just now, but as far as I'm aware, you know, goes ahead. The fans are going to be admitted, and that's the end of it.
Absolutely. Let's get into football issues as well, and we'll try and keep you updated as the information is released. But at the moment, some games falling foul of the fact that there are COVID people in the camps of various teams who've tested positive for COVID. So there you are. Now, last night, it was the late show, I have to say. Two enjoyable games, certainly watching both Rangers and St Johnstone and Ross County against Celtic. Celtic 97th minute, Tam, and Anthony
The
Ralph.
referees have got it in for them.
Well, this is this is a great.
Please.
Well, I have to tell you, by the way, I don't think he's got it in for them, but I thought he was poor.
Well, there was a couple of strange decisions, but no. And you know what I'm going to say right away for any of the Celtic fans tuned in today. Have your celebrations. I am not going to have a go at any of the young guys that ran onto the pitch. You know, everybody's laughing and joking about, Celtic, 1 minute they're meant to win the Champions League and now they're going off their heads about a late winner against Ross County. Listen, every fan of every club loves the late winner, right? I loved it when Stevie Kirk did it in the cup final for us. I loved it even when it was a late goal that got us a draw. I'm talking about Lucas Jutkovic in the 6 each game with Motherwell and Hibs. I don't think I've ever felt happier than that exact moment at a football game, Peter. I would never have a go at the young guys that ran onto the park. I didn't see there was any bother. They were just absolutely thrilled. And the bottom line is as well, it's not just about them, they got a late winner against Ross County. Everybody in that Celtic end at Dingwall last night would have known exactly what the score was at Ibrox, that Rangers were 2-0 up, and it was looking as if Celtic were going to drop 2 points and fall further behind Rangers. So, you know, if you're not a football fan if you don't celebrate big style a late goal like that secures you a hugely important 3 points. So, you know, if there'd been battles with Ross County fans, or if there'd been attack zone players, or whatever it might have been, that's a completely different thing. Young guys were just hyper, and they'd maybe even had a wee couple of shandies in the long road up to Dingwall, who knows?
Yeah, listen, it's strangely enough, I don't often talk about referees. I think it's a difficult job, and I do think that they need as much help as possible with VAR. There are referees who call it as honestly as they can see it. Some of them just have bad games. See, in the last couple of weeks, Ruffy, I think we've been talking about match officials quite a bit.
Yeah, we've done that before in any particular season. You know, they seem to go through a spell, 4 or 5 bad mistakes, and there was a couple last night. I don't know why the first booking, the boy, because he's got blood coming out his nose.
Well, he's been elbowed in the face.
Yeah, I know, and I don't understand that at all. And there was a lot of other decisions, but I thought Malky Mackay's summing up after the game, I thought that was just a joke. We'll just keep playing till you score.
He was trying to word it very carefully. It was as if, so I don't know if he'll get the wee tap on the shoulder from the SFA with that one, But, the bottom line was that when Big Starfelt went down, it wasn't because, he got booked because of the tirade that he launched against the referee.
Yes, absolutely. But the second one, see on that point,
the second one, the boy was away from him.
But VAR would have helped the referee. I still think the assistant should have helped the referee.
You're preaching to the converted,
because he'd have been sent off.
The bottom line is, I've said for long enough, whilst we don't have VAR, I'll remind you that as much as even folk of our generation would still use the expression a linesman, you're supposedly meant to use assistant referee. And I could do with the referee being assisted a wee bit more by these chaps, because I don't care even if it's so-called the wrong side linesman who's maybe seen something that goes on in the box, or or even the fourth official, if they believe they have seen it and they're there to assist the referee, then I'd like to see them getting involved. And it's easy peasy these days because they're all wired for sound.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. The second one, Tam, did you think the second one was a yellow card? Now remember, the only thing I would say to you is, and the referees have said this to me, not every challenge is a yellow card.
No, I thought that one was, though. I think it's only been exaggerated because of the first booking, perhaps. But the boy was away from him. He skinned him and he was away and he's heading into the box.
Yeah.
Right? So when the challenge came in, the ball was nowhere near either player for Ross County or Celtic. So yeah, I don't think there was any qualms. I don't think any fuss would have been made of that one if he hadn't already been booked and there was a yellow showing there. I don't think we'd be talking about it now.
Yeah, roughly.
No, I'm not agreeing with Tom on that one. I think it was two guys tussling for the ball. It was a foul. I don't think it was a yellow card. It was a foul and a free kick for me.
Yeah.
But again, it's everybody's opinion, how you see it and how you don't see it.
Giving your opinion.
No, I don't think I thought it was a foul.
Yeah, I thought it was a foul. But I didn't think it was a yellow card. But then again, the other thing about it is he did have a real blast at the referee. Does that have an effect in the referee's thinking on it? I don't know,
But I'd have been screaming for the penalty though with a handball.
Celtics,
when it hit the Ross County player, because there's all this thing, okay, his arms weren't out like that, they weren't like that, but it's still kind of like that, unless you're like that and the ball hits you, it would appear you're going to get it. But I go back to, I'm trying to think of the incident at last weekend, a penalty incident, and it was when Jenks, what's the boy's name?
Teddy Jenks,
when he as good as caught the ball for Aberdeen. But the bottom line is, Peter, if the referee doesn't see it, he can't give it.
Absolutely.
And that's why we need VAR. It's as simple as that. Or, to go back to what I said earlier, the referee, and the Aberdeen one's a perfect example. He didn't see it the angle he was at. Of that, there is no doubt. But he's got a linesman over there, he's got a linesman there, and he's got a fourth official there. Even if one of them saw what happened, surely they've got to give the guy a shout.
Well, that is the point from last night when you were looking at Alan Muir talking to one of the players, and he said, look, I did not see the player elbow him in the face. He says from the angle I was running at, which is fair to Alan Muir for pointing that out. The other thing here, and I kid you not, this is the God's honest truth. There's a guy here who's he's called Malky, right? But I know it's not Malky Mackay himself because he's got a Rangers badge next to his name. And he says, how many minutes did the fourth official hold up? Malky, I honestly don't know. I thought it was maybe 3 or 4, but I didn't see it. I can't remember hearing it in the commentary, but there were long delays in the game. There was numerous substitutions. Starfelt was flat out getting retreatment. So it must have been up about 5 or 6 anyway, Ruffy.
That might have been actually, funnily enough, what won the game for Celtic was the Starfelt incident. Yeah. Maybe because he had been down there for as long. Maybe the boy did him a favour by drawing blood, because that really added on time. And of course Celtic got the winner with Big Ralston, who's been brilliant.
And they've been lucky, by the way, because they've no strikers, Ruffy. And again, they got out of jail.
They certainly did.
Strikers.
No strikers,
How much have they got in the bank?
I know, I agree.
No, as a Motherwell fan, I'm really, really sobbing into my handkerchief.
Wait a minute, shut it, you get 3 or 4.
Well, we have 5 for now.
But the point here is, Tam,
they didn't have a record, you're right.
He put Kyogo on and he got flack for it, and rightly so, but that's the call of the manager. But they got out of jail with the win against Motherwell. They got out of jail last night because there was only one shot from Ross County, and they scored in the centre of defence again.
Well, again, it just shows you stats is a load of rubbish if you look at them. 75%, as I said, possession, and then you lose a goal, and that just shows you how stupid they are, the attempts they had, but they are, I know Tam's not got any sympathy for them, and quite rightly so, because they've got more money than anybody else, and they aren't prepared for this scenario to happen, and there was players on the park last night, I'm sure a lot of the Celtic supporters didn't even know who they were when they were coming on. And I think Danny McGrain was on standby.
Yeah. For the benefit of our younger viewers, Danny McGrain was a world-class fullback. Ruffy, what did you make of Tam when he said there about the fans? It's the 97th minute. Shouldn't have done it. Some people are saying, it's bang out of order, which of course it is. Is there any leeway on this one, or are we're just going to get hammered for whatever opinion
I don't think you can control yourself. Most of them were young boys, and the 7 minutes into extra time, and what it means and everything, you're going to lose it. You're going to lose it as long as there's no any violence or anybody getting hurt. Then I don't have a
and Peter,
problem
you know
with
what?
it.
There'll be some out there, right? One of the young lads that went up there last night to support Celtic, contact the show and tell us how much you spent in that trip last night between your ticket, your transport, probably a wee something to eat, maybe a wee couple of drinks. You know, it wasn't a cheap night out, and then your team gets a late winner on what was quite a dramatic evening. And as I said before, the 3 points that keep Celtic on Rangers' tail, you know. I mean, there was one, I'm sure it was against Partick Thistle at Firhill. The Rangers fans get flamed for celebrating too much that day as well. You remember
I
that?
remember it,
was a late winner for Rangers at Firhill, but it was a huge 3 points. So fans are going to celebrate. If you get, you know, I just think, if there's any bother, then like, I think we just need to be sensible. If there's any bother, fine. You clobber the guilty parties, but that was just exuberance, if I can use that
when
word.
Ross County scored their goal, this player ran out of their support and they were all jumping about like maniacs.
I'm a bit worried sometimes if we use the term over exuberance because it's the old
left. And what year was
the
that?
old Rod Petrie for the over exuberant fighting. But nevertheless, listen, they got the win again. No surprise that Ross County were well organised. I think Malky's got them, playing well. But Celtic get the win and they get ready for the League Cup final on Sunday against Hibs, barring, of course, any late twists in this one. Sunday will go ahead at Hampden. Joe Newell is getting ready for this one for Hibs as well. They got a confidence-boosting win against Dundee, albeit through an own goal. But he says if they can defeat Celtic on Sunday, suddenly the starting 11 and the supporting cast can become legends.
No, to win a cup for this club would be obviously huge. I know how much it would mean to the fans, and you get told often that you get this legendary status if you win a cup with a club and stuff like that. So, to be part of a team that could do that and beating Celtic in the final would be massive.
I like him, Ruff. He's got a good left peg on him. Yeah, he's been a good addition. You know, he had a wee injury there and he was out. But the house players must be saying to themselves, like, if Celtic field that team, they felt last night they've got a chance. And I think if all the other players were fit, they'd be saying this is going to be a hard one for us. But you'll certainly be looking at that line-up for Celtic and the way they played and everything. You've got to say you've got a chance. Yeah, yep. We'll talk about that in greater detail tomorrow. But Celtic get the win against Ross County. Rangers against Johnstone. I just thought if they were in the mood prior to it, Tam, I thought Rangers would, they could have run up a high score against St Johnstone. But if you're talking about goals, okay, Morelos is in close. He's like every good striker, just hovering. But the second goal was a joy to watch. Absolute peach. Just one touch stuff back to front. You mentioned Daniel McGrain earlier. Dare I say it, shades of that great goal he was involved in many moons ago down at St Mirren. Yeah. And the day that Celtic rather dramatically won the league when Hearts chucked it away against Dundee. Lovely wee one-touch stuff all the way up the right flank, ball into the middle and bang. It was a great goal. Motherwell no playing that day. Eh? Was Motherwell no playing that day for that Celtic game that you knew, or the goal? It was only St Mirren that weren't playing that day. Try not to venture into Chris Sutton territory. Exactly. But anyway, you know what? For life, man, I wonder who Motherwell were playing that day, because I would have been there. But all the drama that day back in '86, it was all at Dens Park and down at Paisley, of course. But no, it was a smashing goal last night. And you know what? I say it. I've said it for the past 3 weeks now. But Stevie Who, I've encouraged a Celtic fan to get in contact with the show, Peter. Is there a Rangers fan tuned in just now who would swap Van Bronckhorst for Steven Gerrard? Well, it's a great point, Tom, I don't think there is. I don't think anybody's missed him. No. Nobody's mentioned him, Ruffy, because this has just been seamless. Yeah, it has, and that's what I think the supporters were hoping, that they bring somebody of that stature coming into the club, somebody who's been at the club, somebody who's done something at international level, he's been a success as a manager, so, it was a great pick, and it was an even better pick to get him in quick. I know he didn't take the semi-final, but he'd obviously sat and watched it and seen what he had to do, and I think they've just bounced back again. I think Rangers are just back to where they were. Yeah, Aribo, he's been fantastic. I mean, it's. Are there any other in the equation? I think Tamil mentioned Tony Watt, but McGregor, Aribo, Tony Watt. Really, if you were looking at Player of the Year heading into the end of this year,
those three would be front runners. Kyogo would be in there.
Well, I've got to throw in a goalie. I've got to throw in Craig Gordon.
I was going to say that with that,
absolutely, yeah, you're
again,
right.
the flamboyant players, the creative players, the goal scorers, they always, in that respect, get the headlines, and it's a wee bit unfair on the goalies, you know. I mean, I've said for long enough at goalies, a lot of them have it far too easy, you know. They lose a goal and they run out and point at other defenders and never take the blame.
Even your goalie,
Liam Kelly, he's been brilliant.
Fantastic.
You know, but I think Craig Gordon.
Have we missed any outfield players, Tam?
Any outfield players? In terms of being truly outstanding, I think you just about covered them, Peter.
Aribo's left peg, Ruffy. I mean, he's coming in off the right-hand side. He's a danger. He can pick a pass. He's not scared of hitting a shot as well. And he's always at the centre of everything positive for Rangers. I'm sure Van Bronckhorst got in and looked and thought, oh, I've inherited a good one here.
But he's added a few to his game for last year. You know, I don't know whether he's playing more regular now, but he's certainly oozing a confidence, and he has got the ability, you know, as he did last night. There was one wee bit of skill in the second half. It was superb. And there's not many players could do that on the park, you know, so you should, I mean, just have a joy watching everything he does.
But as much as we're saying, Peter, that the Rangers fans aren't even mentioning the name Steven Gerrard just now, they might be mentioning him soon when that transfer window opens, you know, because you do wonder, will he have his eye on anybody up the road?
Yeah, it's
Aribo perhaps been one of them.
It's interesting to see whether he thinks the standard of player is good enough to play at Villa. And quite a few people have commented. Joe says, Gerrard is a good manager, but his time at Rangers was at an end. The whole thing had gone stale. And also, Malky says, Gerrard did okay, but I think he'd run out of ideas. So Tam, Hugh Scott says, I remember Motherwell were at Ibrox on that day. They were being beaten 2-0 by Rangers. It was Graham Souness's first time getting introduced to the crowd, and he says, I won the competition to take penalties before the game.
Oh, brilliant. Great memory then, eh?
Oh, fantastic.
Well done. I could never have told you that, who we'd played that particular day. But by the way, I don't think you can leave that game last night. I'd love to get your thoughts now on St Johnstone. St Johnstone were really, really poor last night. I really fear for Callum Davidson in terms of, you know, other clubs, it seems, are maybe going to forget the great work that he did. And we talked originally about as he hit the glass ceiling.
Hold on, if you fear for him, do you think he's now under pressure?
No, I don't fear. No, sorry, I don't fear for St Johnstone sacking him.
Yeah.
I mean, board members, club chairman have done some crazy things in the past, but I don't think MD at St Johnstone would sack Callum Davidson. I mean that I fear for him perhaps missing his chance. A right good move, because his stock was never any higher when St Johnstone clinched the double. But, you know, it's not going to look great if they get relegated this season. You know, they'll start saying, well, it was cup competitions, Emery can win them and da-da-da-da-da.
I don't think they can come out with that. St Johnstone beat some good sides along the way.
I know. But you know, folk could swing it that way to their advantage. But, I mean, Callum Davidson, I don't think that, you know, I say this honestly and very earnestly to Mr. Cosgrove, you know, Callum can't take St Johnstone any further unless he won the league. And that's impossible. We're coming up to 40 years since anybody out with the Old Firm won the league. So that's not going to happen.
I thought his best bet, Ruffy, was maybe the Preston job because of his association and long association with them. But now, you know, Tam's mentioning they're winless in 5. Chris Kane obviously has been involved in a situation where he was with a household that had a COVID test, so he's going to have to isolate for 10 days. It never rains but it pours for Callum Davidson.
No, and Tom's right. You know, managers must look at their CV when their stock is really, really high, and I'm sure there would have been offers. Same with Jack Ross as well. I mean, his stock was high as well, you know, a couple of years ago. And it just shows you when you're a manager, if you have thoughts of actually moving, you should take it when your stock's high, rather than waiting to see when it's all gone pear-shaped.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we will see if St Johnstone can somehow get themselves out of this. Of course, Motherwell at Fir Park on Saturday.
That's right, the old off-the-ball derby. But as I say, or it may even been in our preview that I said it, I'll be having my booster at 3:30 on Saturday. I was able to get an appointment, and that is what I will be doing, so that if the mood takes me, I could maybe go out for a wee plate of spaghetti or something on the Sunday night.
On your own? On your own?
Well, we maximum 3 households at the one table.
Right, okay. Brilliant, Tom. Anyway, here's how the Premiership table looks. And I think at the top end, no change because of that late winner for Celtic and Anthony Ralston. Rangers 4-point advantage with their comfortable win over St Johnstone. St Johnstone are bottom, but Ross County are not out of striking distance, certainly Dundee in the mix, and you can't rule out anybody above St Mirren and Livingston as well. I think, from 8 down to 12, Ruffy, you could still hit a downward spiral. I don't see Hibs and upwards in any way starting to panic.
No, I don't think so. I think the 5 that you mentioned there will be the 5 that will be there for the rest of the season. I think the 2 things that, going back to that, and I'm looking at that league table and I'm saying to myself, are Aberdeen and Hibs going to overtake Motherwell and Dundee United?
Yeah.
I think they would be the teams that maybe drift a wee bit, and Aberdeen and Hibs would get a grip of themselves. So, but I think the bottom 5, it's going to be a long half a season left for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Ruffy, I don't know how do we obviously we've got some news tomorrow that we're going to reveal ahead of obviously the League Cup final. It's we're getting ready for the festive break. Yeah. But there's a dilemma here, because we're obviously going to ask Tam to come into the Predictor League. If he wants. It's a difficult one, but you come in. What do I need to do?
Tell me what I need to do.
Well, you come in and replace one of our team members who's leaving us.
Yes.
We don't want to mention it right now. We'll obviously talk about it tomorrow, because obviously people have to. Once you get a transfer bid, you've got to accept it. So
I need the papers.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is there any guesses? No, it's not that.
It's a swap deal with Katie Price.
No.
No. It's not him.
Right. I love that.
We'd never get the show started. But no, it's not that one. But obviously you'd have to come in on the points that this person who's in the Predictor has.
Okay.
So are you up for coming
absolutely.
in? And it means you'll have to predict. It might be against your
That's
team.
Absolutely.
Unlike Tam McManus, who has consistently bet him.
That's fine. And I'll bring my whole theory now about the 0-0s to the party. You don't even need to count. Just go ahead with 0-0 every week, and I bet you'll come out tops.
Yeah. Well, there is a reason. You better tell them the consequences.
The consequences of your apparent stupidity on 0-0.
Right.
The loser takes the other 5 in the Predictor League out for an all expenses meal with 3 starter, main and sweet, and the choice of their wine on the menu.
That's fine. Well, considering we're not allowed back out to 2072, then I am up for it. I'll go for that. No worries.
Right, okay. I'll tell you one thing, if he loses, what a meal we're going to have. It'll be fantastic.
He knows every restaurant in Glasgow and abroad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or further.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
To stand your meal anyhow already, mate.
Well, I should.
What was that over?
Yeah, that was Harry Redknapp. I'm looking forward to that as well. Anyway, apart from that, it's a team effort, Tam. Barry Booth says, hi PLZ. It's the first time I've submitted something to your show, and he did it on the app. Download the app. If you actually download the app, you get all the breaking football stories, but also there's a little bit in the menu there where you can put submissions in. You could actually record a message and we'll send you out something nice. But if you want to type something out, it drops into our server here and we can read it out. And Barry Booth says, I moved up from Manchester around 7 years ago due to work commitments. I've settled here now, and he's married a Scots lass. Now, Barry's obviously clued up.
Yep.
It's great when you can marry somebody from the greatest country in the world. Just a few observations about the Scottish game. Having looked into the history of the game up here, it's always a 2-horse race. The Glasgow side seem to have an unfair advantage, he says, but the general standard of play is not as bad as some of my former mates in Manchester thought. Entertainment value is decent. And I think Barry has gone on to suggest there should be a handicap system with Rangers and Celtic. I can see that coming in. And also he says he'd like it increased to 16 teams in the league, playing each other twice, but then you get to the playoffs and the relegation and everything, which is great. I personally think, Barry, you talk a lot of sense in all the points that you make. So thank you very much for doing that. He says, keep up the good work in the show.
You know why that's great about extending the league? Because once upon a time, and Ruffy would have played nowadays, he said, as you get into even the second half of the season, there was a lot of meaningless games, middle of the league. But now we've got this brilliant playoff system. You just expand the playoff system, and you would make sure there wouldn't be any dead rubbers. So I would absolutely go for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And John McLean says, Ruffy and Tam McManus continually go on about Celtic's attacking prowess, goal difference of 2 points to it being no better than Rangers. He says Celtic have been scraping by recently. Funny old game this, Ruffy. Shots, corners and amount of possession. They don't count as goals for and goals against.
And I would say the same for Rangers last night. I think they had 78% possession.
So for a minute there I thought you was going to say 78 shots on target.
No.
78% possession.
And the same amount of efforts at goal. It just depends on, how many hit the back of the net. And I would say at this moment in time, comparing Rangers and Celtic, I would say Rangers have got a more settled side, obviously, because most of the players are playing. But I'd still say, even for the times at the Celtic game, there's a 10-15 minute period where they're awful at the back. Yeah. Awful. But because of the midfield and because of if they've got other players up front, they're a joy to watch.
Yeah.
That's a Ranger. I'm not saying Rangers aren't a joy to watch. They are a joy to watch, because that goal we're talking about last night was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, well, for me, it's goal of the season if you're a football purist. Rangers' second goal last night. But the thing about it is, and I think I tip Rangers to win the league this season, Tam, is because they have that consistency, they have that smooth transition, which I think has been tremendously lucky. The only dilemma and the only unknown that we're all sitting here and all the fans are wondering about is, does he get to strengthen? And is it strengthening without losing players in the January window for him? But right now he's got a settled team, as Ruffy said, and they just look like a well-oiled machine.
Aye, there'll be Rangers fans keeping their fingers, toes and everything crossed when the transfer window opens. There's no doubt about that, because if you go back to their AGM, the vibe that seemed to come out of that was that they were maybe going to have to sell players, and it was just a matter of they were wondering which ones, So I don't see how that situation could have changed any by bringing in Van Bronckhorst. Gio Van Bronckhorst was the best one in the world. He's not come in for £100 a week, and the guys that he's brought with him. So, I think you just need to say, if I was a Rangers fan myself, I'd be sitting just hoping and praying that Steven Gerrard and others for down south don't pounce, because Ruffy's absolutely right. The Rangers team, for a while now, it almost picks itself. Very, very settled.
That's when you can tell there's a good winning side. So here's the fixtures for the weekend as we get ever closer to it. Of course, there is a winter break this year, and some would like to see it kicking in right now, but I know we certainly wouldn't, and I'm sure you share our view. Dundee against Hearts, Livingston, Ross County, Motherwell against St Johnstone, and Rangers against Dundee United. And let's not forget, on the Sunday, it's the Premier Sports League Cup final between Celtic and Hibernian. Of course, we're well aware that Rangers against Dundee United could be under threat, because there are two players who've tested positive for COVID in the United camp.
Yeah, and it seems to be growing arms and legs. It seems to be doubling, and much more quicker. And I wouldn't be surprised, because I think that they've changed the rules now that you don't have to have enough to field a team. You just need to have enough that might
13 players
take me the
is what
virus.
You have. If you've got 13 players available, you've got to play.
Yeah, but I mean, you could easily say that some of them have been in contact with the 13. So that puts them out as well. So I'm sure a medical report could be put out there and these games could be cancelled.
Oh, you think there's a wee bit of jiggery pokery? Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm just saying, if you have to check and make sure they haven't been out with the bubble, that the other 13 have been in.
Yeah, of course they are. Unfortunate thing about it, Dundee United, like so many other teams, in the last week, this is only obviously just a little suggestion, Tam, but a lot of teams would have been looking to get their Christmas party out of the way early. And there was a lot of teams last week were out away from the beaten track of Scotland having their Christmas parties. I wonder if that's had an effect.
Yeah, well, again, we hasten to add that certainly the advice that was coming out for the Scottish Government, any of the parties that you may be referring to were predated. They predated that latest government advice, so officially nobody did anything wrong. But I wonder myself if could the players at any club, particularly this year, could they not just have kept in their own bubble and had let their hair down for a wee bit in one of their kind of lounges at their respective stadia? I don't know why they would have to travel. I mean, there's absolutely no way, for example, this winter, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no way that any clubs are going to fly to a training camp abroad. I mean, surely to goodness that's not going to happen, So I think everybody just has to be a wee bit sensible. I think we should just all go and have a party in the lounge at number 10 Downing Street, and that would be it, or even just clear.
Not just a meeting.
Downing Street, I think, man, can't be far off 110 yards long, so it's almost the dimensions of a park as well. Maybe we could roll down some AstroTurf and play the games there.
I think the key element for us, Tam, to be serious without getting too political, is just make sure that there's no catering cans anywhere to be seen when we stage the photograph. Anyway, apart from anything else, let's hope it goes ahead. I can understand Dundee United's frustration for this, but again, here's a suggestion, Ruffy. Do you remember what we were talking about a year ago at this very point? Rangers are 4 points clear, Ruffy. Rangers are 4 points clear, and it's round about the time where you start getting on your treacherous WhatsApp group. No, you're not in it.
No, they can call it any time they like. I'm quite happy for where we are. That we would like to see some teams
relegated,
falling foul. Unfortunately, there is one of them. One of them is there a bit.
So there's a man who holds grudges. I always talk about the fact that if we're going to rectify things, Tam, people need to look forward and forget the past, but not this guy.
I want to know if fifth in the league would get a European spot as things stand.
Oh yeah, that's
interesting. We need to stop the league as well.
You need to wait for the cups to be decided, Tam. But over and above that, Rangers are 4 points clear. I wonder if everybody would like call the league.
Absolutely.
These things happen.
That would be, and again, particularly at the bottom, St Johnstone. Would that could never have happened? I wonder in world football if a club that's won the domestic double has been relegated.
I know, we were talking about that.
I mean, there have been clubs that have won the cup back in the day and have been relegated the following year, but no the double.
Yeah, I think Wigan did it. Wigan not win the FA Cup and get relegated.
I think closer to home. I'm sure there's Scottish clubs that have done it.
But St Johnstone are fortunate enough that they've played the same number of games as everybody else. No, they've no.
All right,
a game in hand,
that game. Let it go, Ruffy, will you? You're a broken record.
That's too negative anyhow. Don't even listen. Don't even talk about that.
Absolutely. Listen, there is talk about, people have been obviously mentioned. We mentioned David Martindale. Robbie Nielsen's having none of it. He's got to keep the football on. If anything, it lifts people's spirits as well, and people like to get out there, according to the Hearts manager.
No, I don't think we need that at the moment, to be honest with you. I think we've got the break coming up after the game in January, so that hopefully give us a chance to see it out a wee bit. I think one of the things we've got to remember in football is that people's lives revolve around it a lot of the time, and they need it through this festive period, and that's hence the reason we have a lot of games. So we have an obligation to make sure that we don't put ourselves in areas that we're going to cause ourselves any problems, but make sure that we put games on.
Yeah, Robbie Nielsen wants to make sure that the games go ahead, Ruffy, and they take on Dundee at Dens.
Yeah, I thought they played particularly well last week against Rangers, and that's why he's obviously wanting the games to keep going, because they are playing particularly well. They're wanting to add in January as well. Their ambition has to be in Europe, and whenever the teams that would be rivaling, like Hibs and Aberdeen, well, they're struggling a wee bit, and he wants to keep it going. I mean, get as many points in the bag as possible. Yeah,
of course, I think they have been playing well, to his credit, Hearts, but I don't think they've got the firepower. I don't think they've got the strikers that they certainly got strikers to maybe battle for third time.
Exactly, as a kind of a neutral looking at it in that perspective, I was hoping Hearts and indeed Hibs at the start of the season could have made inroads and maybe put in a wee challenge to Rangers and Celtic. I continually hope that Aberdeen are going to do that, but alas, I'm almost ready to gee up on that one. But Hearts have been okay, and I think what Aberdeen needs to remember, they did come up for the Championship last year. It was only last season they came up, so they've done extremely well, and you know they've done well because you know, if Robbie had got after a poor start, you know, the Hearts fans were going to be right on his back because they weren't too enamoured with the style of football last year. But no, he's done brilliantly well, and you know, again with him as well, you just hope the games go on, we can keep playing.
Yeah, I certainly look forward to. I don't know if you've been to any, Tam, but the Hibs Hearts derby in the third. I hope that gets the go ahead. Ruffy, I'm obviously down to cover that match. I really hope it gets the go ahead.
Wonderful games, particularly if you live in Edinburgh. I lived in Edinburgh when it was the Hibs Hearts derby games, you know, and I know what it means to. I mean, everybody talks about Rangers and Celtic, but Hibs and Hearts is just as volatile.
Did you live in Edinburgh?
He's gilding the lily. He didn't live in Edinburgh.
Oh, he didn't. Did
No,
you know
you're just telling.
Country.
Well, you didn't live
Whereabouts?
in
I
Edinburgh.
live in a place called Gifford.
Gifford.
It's in
That
East
sounds
Lothian.
lovely.
That's not Edinburgh.
Near Trinent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where was your local? Or where did you go?
The
for a
Goblin.
bite to eat?
Oh, it was a wee village, a wee English village. I stayed in the Goblin Hall.
The Goblin.
Is that the name of it? Yeah. Probably.
They called it after he'd left.
It's probably changed now. It's probably changed now. Is it still called that? Shut up.
Recommend it for a wee swally, aye.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, apart from anything else, the reason why he didn't live in Edinburgh is because he didn't win an Edinburgh derby. There's no way you could live in Edinburgh if you can't win an Edinburgh derby.
when Andy Gorham was opening a pub in Largs, mind that story?
Yes.
About a good 20 years ago. Mind, we had a competition in the radio. What should Andy Gorham call his pub? And the winner, the listener to get the T-shirt said, the cock well in. Sounds like a pub as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, just on the other point about Edinburgh derbies, Hibs won 3-1 last night at Tynecastle. 3,500 there to see Hibs. Martin Boyle's wife was on the score sheet. 3-1.
Yeah,
Good crowd, by the way.
Well, that's what we want. We want crowds like
Get a
that.
grant or something for this programme.
There's no point in asking me. There's no point in asking me this because Tam's the expert in the one.
Yeah,
No, I'm delighted. I was talking this with Jane Lewis the other day on Saturday when she was in at the BBC. We're sitting watching the games, and I was intrigued about what sort of crowd this was going to get, and it was a stoter. Would you say it was?
3,500.
Good on them. Absolutely brilliant.
It's only going to go up and up and up. The other match is Livingston against Ross County. You know, listen, David Martindale's already made his opinion known to everyone about shutting down early, but quite simply right now he's going to have to get on with it against the Ross County side who are dragging everybody closer towards them. The Celtic one for me last night was just a free hit for County.
Yeah, and Livingston have had a couple of good results, particularly going up to Dundee United, you know, so he'll fancy that game. He'll be looking at that game saying, right, Ross County are one of the teams that if we take 3 points off her, we're further away from them, and that's what he'll be looking at.
See if Motherwell beats St Johnstone, Tam, you could be in 4th place.
Yeah,
you could leapfrog Dundee United.
Absolutely. And what I liked, heading into this game, I liked what Graham Alexander had to say after the Celtic defeat. See the very fact it was a narrow 1-0 win for Celtic. Motherwell, I thought we were really good. I watched the whole game. We were really good in the first half. Fell away a wee bit in the second half. And again, if you want to look at the stats, the possession, the shots on and off, right, Celtic deserved the 3 points. I'm not going to argue with you there. But what I liked about Graham Alexander, because sometimes after a game like that, you half expect a Motherwell manager to come out and almost give his boys a pat in the head because it was only 1-0 at Parkhead and the gulf between the clubs, the finances, not. But Graham Alexander came out and he said, I don't want my players to be happy about that. I want them still to remember that was a defeat. We lost and we need to do better, you know. So he wasn't for giving them a pat in the back, and I liked that going into this game on Saturday. But we know, as you say, look at the league, St Johnstone will be absolutely fighting for their lives. You know, and I'm sure like the rest of you, I'm stunned at where St Johnstone are in the league because the 2 cup victories, they weren't a fluke.
No.
They were really good. They had a lot of good players in that team who they still have, of course. They only lost maybe a couple of their big name guys, but yeah, it's a strange thing that's going on.
I still fancy Motherwell to win. Here's a question that was put to you a couple of weeks ago, and you did highlight to both Ruffy and myself about Tony Watt.
Aye.
You know, are you worried about the transfer window now in January?
Yes, I think he'll go. I think Motherwell will not break any wage structure. He's really putting himself in the shop window. this season. Of that, there's no doubt. He's at the age where he's been one of these players that he's been at, I don't know how many clubs. I would even guess 11, 13 maybe even in his relatively short career. And I think he's going to be looking for one more big move, and I don't think Motherwell will be able to meet his financial demands. And I'm fine with that.
Is his contract up? Is he?
Yeah, it'll be. The word is that he'll just play it out now to the end of the season. But of course, as you know, then clubs can come in as of when is it?
January.
Is it? Aye.
Yeah,
right.
Can get them a pre-contract. The other thing about it as well, which you can't knock the boy for, is quite simply, you can buy yourself £250,000. It goes a long way to helping you throughout your career and longer, Ruffy.
You think he's good enough to get into England?
I don't think he'll want to go down to England.
I think
there's
he'd be
enough.
a prize asset for Hearts.
Yeah, well, I think there's he's been at Hearts before, Ruffy, in a loan deal, but I think there's enough clubs sniffing Dundee, Aberdeen. There might be some
I think
people.
he's better than that. I think Hearts. I think.
Hearts better than Aberdeen.
Him and Boyce, aye.
Yeah.
Aye, I think that would be something that Hearts should be
I know
looking
the
at.
riches that would await down south, but see in general terms, which is why I was clinging on to hope that he would stay at Motherwell. In terms of him being a settled young man now, married, comfortable where he's living, liking his local environment, which is why, as I say, I would love it if I don't know, as one last gesture to Motherwell, John Boyle came out and said, you know what, I'm just going to back him to stay at the club and I'll pay his wages, something mad like that, which would be terrific. But I just wonder if he, notwithstanding the money that he could rake in, and I suppose that's what this is all about, if a move to another Scottish club might actually suit him better, particularly if he didn't have to up his roots now,
Yeah, Joe says bet Tony Watt flops if he moves. Well, you don't want to see that,
Merry
Joe.
Christmas to him as well. That was another lovely thought.
Well, he says the grass isn't always greener. I get your point, Joe, but we don't want to see him flop. We want to see him prosper, because if he prospers, suddenly we've got other options for this next part of the chat, Ruffy, which is Scotland are going to discover in the next maybe half hour who their opponents will be in the Nations League. Because here's the potential opponents we've got. No point in chatting extensively about the others, because there's Israel waiting for us. Ukraine, Sweden, Bosnia, Iceland, Israel, Romania, Serbia, Ireland, Slovenia, Montenegro, Albania and Armenia.
Well, I think we'll have been fortunate enough in the last two Nations Cup, because we haven't had some big countries in there, and we'll miss them the last time, but you're right in your saying it looks as if Israel's a stick-on.
Yeah, I would avoid Iceland.
And
I wouldn't like to play Iceland or Sweden,
Sweden.
I would happily.
How many did we get drawn against, Peter?
3.
Yeah.
3. So we're in a group of 4. And when do the games start? There'll be a lot of folks shouting that at their screens now. When do these games start?
Yeah, I have not got a clue.
When do they start?
It's an absolute muddle.
I'm
you
so
would
glad.
think they would at least, the World Cup's at the end of next year, you'd think, right, surely they'll get that out the way first. Or are these Nations League games going to be effectively warm-up games for the World Cup?
I said I haven't got a clue, but I've written it down here. 4 of the games will be played in a quadruple header in June, with the final in September.
Wow.
Oh,
Was that okay?
Well,
So there you are.
so we're working all year then?
Yeah.
So see that was I'm sure that was one of the original thoughts with the Nations League, was to take away the meaningless friendlies.
Yeah.
Because there would have been a rake of friendlies organised summer 2022 with a view, and we hope we're going to be having that view, to Qatar 2022. So, if that's the purpose of them, fine. But
it's a fair old season for the players that are picked to play national
going,
football.
yeah,
You
absolutely.
have domestic season, then you've got that in June, and then you've got the World Cup, and wow.
the nurses will be greeting into their hankies at the thought of that.
Yeah.
Having to play a couple of games for your country.
If anybody was looking forward to football tonight, it just ain't happening with regards to the Leicester-Tottenham game. But there are 2 other games, Chelsea, Everton and Liverpool-Newcastle United. I wonder if either of those were the main choice of the television companies, but certainly Leicester-Tottenham was a mouth-watering one, but it's not going to happen. The night before it was Brighton 0, Wolves 1, Crystal Palace 2, Southampton 2, and Arsenal defeated Davy Moyes' side.
No, I'm going to stick up for Davy Moyes as a man that, always backs the referees and the refereeing fraternity. I thought Davy Moyes was magnificent last night after the game. He refused to get tanked into the ref. I mean, it's a hard thing to do now with VAR. If you've got VAR, there's no use then still trying to argue decisions, quite frankly. But it did look a dodgy one, the penalty that they conceded, you know, because that would have been close to a penalty just a few short years ago. You know,
justice was done, wasn't it?
Exactly, aye. But when Davy Moyes came out after it and says, look, he basically held his hands up and says, look, we weren't great tonight, you know, so I'm not going to start blaming the match officials. So, aye, good on Davy Moyes.
Yeah, and of course it means Arsenal are up into 4th place at the expense of West Ham, and that pleased Mikel Arteta.
Well, really pleased with the performance, with the attitude, the commitment, the quality that we showed in the game, and the chemistry that we generated again with our supporters, and to win again from home. It's really important because it sets, you know, the tone of the team against a really good side that is very, very, very difficult to dominate the way we've done today.
Well, I think if anything, Mikel Arteta, there's still half a season.
Because they said she had her own earbuds. Sorry, we're back on.
He's a moron, isn't he? And the one thing I was going to say about Mikel Arteta is a lesson in boards just remaining, steady, calm, sticking by their man. Obviously, there's another half season to go. Arsenal could fall away again, but it looks as if he's putting a good side together.
Yeah, but you know what? The theory you're suggesting there with board sticking by their managers, you know, did no club learn that lesson way back with Sir Alex Ferguson? I mean, what was the game? You're Fergie's biggest fan, Peter. What was the game that his backside was out the window?
Crystal Palace.
Was it? Right. And they stuck by him, and the rest, as they say, is history, you know. So, I mean, it just seems crazy. Try to keep up as much as you've warned me ever so slightly towards English football now, and I make a habit of watching all the highlights. You couldn't keep up with who the managers are these days. I mean, who was the boy that had his interpreter out last night on Match of the Day?
Oh, Bielsa.
Aye, Leeds United.
Yes.
Leeds United boss. You know, he could have walked through here, start ball up naked, and I wouldn't have known who he was.
I wonder if he's got a little bit.
Ronnie Delia.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if he's got a little grasp of the English language, or just completely just decided, look, there's no point, because I always remember interviewing I interviewed Alfredo Morelos. He has a grasp of the English language, but we had a right good noise up between the two of us, and he was good fun. I always remember interviewing Shinsuke Nakamura as well, and he looked and he knew exactly what was being said, but he just kind of absolutely, they kind of just keep it to themselves. And
only 2 words English I heard Alfredo Morelos saying, this is true, it was your girl. I was at a restaurant in the West End of Glasgow, which is when that clutch of players arrived at Rangers, they frequented it, and it was just round the corner for us, and it was a lovely night, and I was sitting at an outside table with my wee lassie, and I clocked, and Morelos wasn't that long at the club, and he was there with a couple of other guys, Pedro Caixinha's number 2, trying to remember who that guy was, and another couple of players, and basically what had happened is an ice cream had been put down in front of him, and being of course a professional sportsman, he was not going to have that ice cream, whether somebody had ordered it for him, whether it was a mistake, but he handed it over to our table, sat it in front of my wee lassie's sofa, and he just said, your girl.
Brilliant.
2 words good on him. That's why I'll never say a bad word against him.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, I always say perception and reality of players and managers sometimes is totally different. Once you get to know them, and they're the same as you and me, it takes a special kind of person for you not to like them. Once you get to know the guys, they're just like you and me. Some of them are lucky enough that they are able to go on to become top professionals. We're almost at the end of the programme, guys. Tam, I mean, it's been a fair old season. I mean, you won't be with us next week because obviously we're all at that point where it's shut down. We're doing specials. We're doing the best of. We're doing one-to-ones.
When does this Predictor start?
The Predictor starts. It'll start tomorrow, Tam.
Right. So again, for clarity, tell me what I need to do.
Basically, what you do is you offer us your prediction on a game. If you get the correct score, so if you said last night 2-1 Celtic, you would have got 5 points.
Okay.
If you'd said 1-0 Celtic, you would still get 2 points for predicting they would win.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Right, I'm up for that.
And then obviously, the big fat
honestly,
zero.
With Christmas coming up, I'll take any overtime it's gone. Thank you, Peter.
Yes. So that's good going. Tam, If I could give you one Christmas present, no holds barred, as we head towards Christmas, what would it be?
A Christmas present?
Yeah.
An end to every virus under the sun. And just let us all go out again.
I never expected a cheesy answer, Robbie. I expected Cluedo.
I kind of got my Christmas wish anyhow with this new. I've told my wee lassie about this new Lapland variant, which means that Santa can get out and about this year. Saves you a fortune. Absolutely.
We spotted my desire for a Christmas present. I don't think I'm going to get it, Ruffy, but we did spot it the other night there, and you kindly went up to the guy and said to him, how much is it? And then I realised that Christmas was slipping away from me.
What was that? I can't remember.
Honestly, he's not real, by the way. We're playing doubles at tennis.
The
next court.
Oh, you wanted your tennis racket?
No, not the new tennis racket. The guy, it was the machine.
Listen,
a machine.
A machine that plays tennis.
No, a machine that just fires balls at you.
It fires
and you just go to the other. And you just go to the other side and you hit them back, but it wouldn't last long for him because there'd be a couple of bad shots and he'd throw the racket and smash the apparatus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask on behalf of the viewers, what do you actually do when you go to this tennis club? Because he's always playing tennis. I mean, it's a bit this could baffle science.
I do his running.
Do you? Right,
and Ruffy just dropped shots of him.
Yes.
But it was expensive, wasn't it? That's how I was happy every year at Christmas. If I got a pair of football boots and a football strip, I was happy. That was me. I was the easiest person to buy for.
Yeah, I thought we were obviously out last week. I thought it was one of. Can I say who we were out with last week at the dinner? Eric Davison.
Yes.
He did a fantastic wee sketch about what you used to get for your Christmas. We used to get up in the morning. There would be the box of black football boots. Yeah. Just black football boots. And you knew they get up and they open the box and it's pink.
Yeah.
And you go, what's that all about?
Well, to be fair, you need to...
I hope he tell that man better.
I didn't want to tell as good as him. I didn't want to tell as good.
I think you need to be a special kind of player to turn up in yellow, lime green, pink.
And they're that size now wearing them. You know what I mean? Kids, it's ridiculous. As you say, Peter, you'll remember the name of it. The best ever Christmas I had, my dad took me one year, I still don't know where to get the money, and it was a famous sports shop that was down in the Trongate. Do you remember that one, at the bottom of the candle rings?
Oh, yeah.
I know the guy.
Sports or something.
The Robert's stores.
Was it? And I get a kind of, I'm colourblind, that kind of orangey reddy mitre ball.
Yes.
Right, no leather, it was an absolute ticker, and a size 5, first ever size 5 bought, and it was great, but kids now, they're absolutely spoiled rotten, they really are.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, the reason I mentioned that, because next week, obviously, we're going to be putting out some special shows because it's festive period. We're going to have a wee break, Ruffy. Yep. We're going to have that winter break. The boys have worked hard. So we're putting out specials, one-to-ones.
The risk of repeating myself, the folk in the ICU wards, they've worked hard. We've sat here talking shite about football and taking the piss out of Ruffy about how this is his last Christmas. That's all we've done. Come on.
It's a fair point.
Exactly.
It's a fair point. And I hope you make that similar point on the off the ball on the weekend.
Absolutely.
Just say to Cosgrove, by the way, instead of your intellectual pontificating, you've done nothing but talk.
Exactly. And we'll both help each other over our losses next year, right there.
Absolutely. And I'm going to finish with Gordon McLean, who says, Tam, don't forget, you need to buy dinner if you lose for the other 5.
That's fine. That's all right.
Fine, awful. Hey,
loaded, man.
Looking good, isn't it? Eh? Absolutely.
We'll go to Glen Eagles or something like that.
Yeah, well,
Andrew Fairley.
It'll be fantastic. Anyway, don't forget, tomorrow, you still get time. All you need to do is hit the subscribe button. You can obviously share the stream as well with your friends. But if you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, you're in the hat for a chance to win the Xbox S Series. If you're on our Facebook page, PLZ Soccer's Facebook, all you have to do is like, share and follow. Either one, take your pick. And
you should switch off your notifications, boy. I just read that. That was it. Any chance Arnold Clark can do as a turn? Charlie, who's that for?
Where? You're going to get
relentless.
You're going to get battered. He's outrageous, isn't he? Anyway, you can win yourself an Xbox. an Xbox. On that note, thank you very much for watching. Thanks for your opinions. We'll be back tomorrow to announce the winner of the Xbox. There's still time for you to get in there. Thanks to Ruffy. Thanks to Tam, from myself, Peter Martin. Thanks to you for watching.